All right, guys, let's shift gears here real quick. And I want to talk about Elgton Jenkins. You guys know we've created an article over in our Patreon group where we're adding to it as we go through the offseason. And what we're doing with this is we are talking about the players. Now we're on to the potential cut / restructures. Okay. Three things are going to happen really, really quick. There's going to be a decision made on Jeff Hafley, and then we got to hire our DC and shuffle our coaching room around. We know Matt LaFleur's under contract now. It's reported Brian Gutekunst deal. I've heard some people say it's pretty much done. Others said they're closing in on getting it done. It will get done. Nobody worry about that. Same thing with Russ Ball. So once that comes down, we turn the page, and now we're in what we call the re-signing period, okay? And what it means is expiring contracts, guys that are set to hit free agency. Will the Packers keep them or not? We already did a segment on that. Multiple segments. You can go find that video here on the channel, and you can find all the information in our Patreon group. We're trying to compile everything together in Patreon, so y'all have a quick little guide. Same thing we'll do with our draft coverage as well. And you can check that out, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Kind of give my take a little bit in there and just break down the most important aspects of the offseason. So we're on to potential cut / restructures. You guys know we broke down Rashan Gary the other day. We kind of talked about what his cap hit was, right? Basically, you could cut Gary this year. If you don't go post June 1, you can free up $11 million. You can free up even more if you move on with a post June 1 cut. We talked about when you looked at Rashan Gary and where he ranked, he was basically our best edge defender in every statistical category this year, other than Micah Parsons, right? Micah Parsons is a freak. So yeah, you can decide to move on from him, and that may be the right case. I know I don't want Rashan Gary back at $28 million per. If you can get that number down a little closer to 15, I think it would be worth it to keep him, but not at the detriment of taking snaps away from younger people. However, with all that being said, that's the first one we broke down. Now we're moving on to Elgton Jenkins. Okay, let's talk about what kind of savings we're looking at here for the 2026 season if we decide to move on from Elgton Jenkins. So his cap hit is $24.8 million. That's comprised of an $18.5 million base salary. He had a $4.8 million proration of the signing bonus he signed on his last contract. There's no roster bonus attached according to Spot Track. Active GM roster bonus there is a little bit different animal, but it's only $1 million, not a big deal. Workout bonus of $500K, no big deal. So all that $24.8 million. The dead cap attached to Elgton Jenkins is $4.8 million. All right. Now, what does that mean? If you cut, and notice there's not an extra year on his deal, okay? So he's not under contract next year. So the post-June 1 stuff doesn't even apply. There's no post-June 1 option. With Gary, there's 2 years left on the deal. You can spread that out over 2 years with the post-June 1 cut and kind of make that cap penalty a little less. That's why it's a little more enticing to say, okay, maybe we do get rid of Gary with a post-June 1 cut to free up even more money if we don't want him on the roster. But when it comes to Elgton Jenkins, it's the last year of his deal, $24.8 million with a $4.8 million day cap attached. What that means, guys, is you have $20 million in savings, okay? If they cut Elgton Jenkins outright, you automatically free up $20 million in cap space. Do you understand now why I tell people don't buy into the salary cap doom and gloom? If the Packers have a player or two they want to go get in free agency, they can do it. You can free up $20 million like that against the cap. Same thing applies with Gary. Like if you do a post-June 1 or post-June, I don't have over the cap pulled up, or I would give you the number. Let's say instead of 11 million freed up, it would be 15 million freed up. All right. Let's just say it's something like that or whatever, right? That you're deciding to spread out the cap penalty over the 2 years because you're going post-June 1. So let's say it's 15 million and you're freeing up 20 here. All of a sudden you just freed up in two swipes of the pen, you freed up $35 million. Okay. So that's why I say you're going to have people that want to get interaction, and it's kind of rage bait on Twitter. You'll see them, the cap gurus will talk about, oh, the Packers are in trouble with cap. They're 15 million over the cap. And you're going to see all that disappear in the blink of an eye. And then they'll immediately shift their doom and gloom, their fear porn. They'll immediately shift it to, well, it's going to catch up next year. We heard that forever. And they made a transition from Aaron Rodgers with a $40 million dead cap hit. They made a transition from him to Jordan Love flawlessly. They went out immediately and got Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. This year they went out and got Nate Hobbs and Aaron Banks, whether we think it's a good signing or not. I'm just telling you, don't let those people trick you into thinking that the Packers are screwed with the salary cap. It's not the case. So $20 million in cap savings if Elgton Jenkins is cut. So now we got to ask ourselves, guys, do we want Elgton Jenkins back? Before I look at the statistics, the rankings and everything, everybody in the chat, really, really quick, do you want him back, yes or no? Do you want Elgton Jenkins back, yes or no? Give me a yes or no answer. That way I can get everybody's opinion on the screen. I don't need a big, long, drawn-out excuse. Just yes or no. We want to hear from you right now in the live chat. Do you want Elgton Jenkins back on the roster next year at the $24.8 million cap hit? Yes or no? Let's rattle through it. Jake in the chat says no. All right. Let's see here. The handyman can. The handyman can. No, he says. All right. Kyle Andretti in the chat says no. Quay Walker says yes. We got our first yes. Got it, Quay. Appreciate it, buddy. Coach Lynn says no. Anthony, I know I'm going to screw the last name up, and I always do. Anthony says no. 2-0 for this says no, yeah, no. Okay, got it, I think. Let's see here. Jen Wright says nope. Okay. Coach Lynn says, I want Linderbaum. Linderbaum's one of those guys that's really, really interesting, Coach, because many people think he's going to be a free agent. I don't know if he will be. And that's why we try not to get too deep into free agency too early, because we fall in love with these players and then their team just re-signs them. So if he's available, Linderbaum will be at the top of the list, no doubt about it. Jonathan in the chat says no. Let's see here. He went on to say no, he's too expensive. Got it. J. Cole says if he goes to free agency, I think we need to pay Linderbaum, then re-sign Ryan at guard, cut Jenkins. Got it. Appreciate it. Packer Doug, no. Holmes, no. So we got one yes, I believe, right? One yes. And that's I'm not taking a shot at who said yes. Listen, I can understand if you want him back. And we're going to talk about where he ranks. And then I want everybody to comment after the show. Let us know in the comments whether we changed your mind or not, or if it still stands. But Chayo, I respect the opinion, bub. All right, let's talk about what PFF says about our boy Elgton Jenkins. So according to PFF, amongst all centers removing the minimal snaps, okay, the minimal snap guys, I should say. So these are the guys that played a significant amount of snaps. Elgton Jenkins graded out as the 24th best center, according to PFF, okay? His grade was a 62.0, all right? Pass blocking grade, 72.5. Run blocking grade, 60.6. No surprise there. We always knew he was a better pass blocker than run blocker, okay? Although the run blocking grade, when you look up and you go, you guys remember the story, the theme of the year was we couldn't get the running game going, right? We could not get the running game going. Why couldn't we get the running game going? Because the offensive line was playing really bad, right? Jerry, I see the super chat. Thank you so much. We'll read them right after the segment, okay? You guys get your super chats in, and we'll hit those. I promise you got my word. We will make sure we hit your super chats before we wrap up. So we're struggling to run the football. The offensive line's playing like cheeks. Now you got to try to comb through this information and find out, okay, why were we playing bad? Who was playing bad? Many people think when Elgton Jenkins left, all of a sudden that's when the offensive line fell apart. In my opinion, it was already struggling. Now, listen, was it struggling as bad? What you're going to find is with Elgton Jenkins and Sean Ryan, it's not that Sean Ryan is necessarily better than Elgton Jenkins. I don't think Sean Ryan is a better football player than Elgton Jenkins. Don't think he ever has been. Don't think he ever will be. However, Sean Ryan was not really good. He was better at run blocking than Elgton Jenkins. Elgton Jenkins was significantly better at pass blocking than Sean Ryan, okay? So when you look at his career arc here, and I think this stuff is important, are we seeing a trend? Is he starting to decline? So Elgton Jenkins came into the league in 2019, and these were his PFF grades from his first year all the way up to the most current year. 69, 66, 82 gets the contract, right? 72 was the other PFF grade after that. So, again, 69, 66, 82 was the peak, 72, 64, 65, now 62. So, and he played 538 snaps this year, guys. So, it's not like it's a small sample size, right? So, what you've seen here is the ceiling, the peak for Elgton Jenkins has been 82. That's a great grade, right? Now, what's the basement, if you will? Unfortunately, this year was his lowest graded year. So, these numbers would suggest since 2021, you've seen a decline. 82, 72, 64, 65, 62. So that's just PFF grades. It's not everything. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the grades. Pass blocking efficiency rating, okay? He ended up being 25th best at center at efficiency. What's pass blocking efficiency? A PFF signature stat measuring pressures allowed on a per snap basis with weighted towards sacks allowed, okay? So sacks mean a little bit more than pressures in this statistic, okay? So what was his efficiency? His efficiency grade ended up being 98.0. He had 4 penalties, but a 98.0. That was 25th best amongst all centers. Okay. Now, important to realize, let's look at the top centers here. Eric McCoy with New Orleans. Okay. He had a 99.4 efficiency grade. Creed Humphrey. That one hurts because we all know the story. Brian Gutekunst selected Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey. I think Creed Humphrey went like the very next pick or something. So I'm not here to be overly critical of Goody. I don't think Goody's a bad general manager, but again, the fact that people don't talk more about that, but Matt LaFleur all of a sudden is a horrible coach, will never make sense to me. When you handpick Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey, and Creed Humphrey came out again this year, 88.8 PFF grade. He stayed durable. He stayed healthy for the most part. A 99.3 pass blocking efficiency grade. His run blocking grade, guys, 88.5. Could you imagine if Creed Humphrey was the center for the Packers these last 5 or 6 years? I don't know, man. That's tough for me. The years that we had to put up with Josh, snap the effing ball, Josh, as Aaron Rodgers said on national television, right? Imagine if Creed Humphrey had been your center. If we're going to grade LaFleur harsh, and we're going to grade Jordan Love harsh, and we're going to grade our offensive line harsh, we damn sure better grade Goody harsh, right? And again, that was a huge, huge, huge swing and a miss is what that was. So, again, Elgton Jenkins, 25th best center in efficiency. Now, let's go to pressures allowed. A little bit better number here. He's 14th in pressures allowed. He allowed 10 pressures according to PFF. Take it with a grain of salt. Go watch the tape yourself. Again, they don't attach specific plays earmarked so you can see whether you think it's a pressure or not. But nonetheless, Elgton Jenkins finished 14th in pressures allowed. That is not a top 10 center, in my opinion. When pass blocking is your strength at a 72.5, when pass blocking is your strength and the efficiency rating is 25th, the pressures allowed is 14th, I'm sorry. Like, that's supposed to be what you're great at. That's not good enough that you're not top 10. For $24.8 million against the cap, can't do it. Now, let's go to run blocking. What about run blocking? That's where we struggle the most, right? Check this out. When you talk about run blocking grade, just by itself, Sean Ryan finished 22nd this year, okay? 22nd. Elgton Jenkins finished 34th. So what does that tell you? Sean Ryan is a better run blocker as a center than he is a pass blocker. Elgton Jenkins is a better pass blocker than a run blocker at center, all right? But, however, both of them, in my opinion, are not starting caliber centers, okay? So when you take everything into consideration there, and Jenkins ranks outside of the top 32 in run blocking grade, and PFF isn't everything. What did our running game look like? Are there some? Yep, our running game struggled this year. I wonder why. Again, your starting center wasn't good enough run blocking. Your backup center wasn't good enough run blocking. I guarantee you Lasita Smith wasn't. Now, there's a little bit of something here. I want to say it was 50-some snaps. Jacob Monk actually graded out really well as a center. It's only 50-some snaps. That's not enough to sell me. Please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not going into 2026 going, Jacob Monk's our center this year. Maybe Goody sees it that way. I don't see it that way. It's too important of a position. It's the second tier of importance on offense, in my opinion. Quarterback, tackles, top priorities. Quarterback, top priority. Tackles, very, very close, but obviously a top priority. And then center. We cannot continue to just go, we'll march out and average to below average center out there. It's no big deal. You can't do it. You just can't do it this year. So, again, you see Elgton Jenkins finishing there in the 34th spot. So, that's kind of the breakdown on Elgton Jenkins. With all that being said, here's how I would handle Elgton Jenkins, okay? Elgton Jenkins, again, just a quick recap before we wrap up. And I'm going to get to your super chat, Jerry. Thank you so much. 30 years old. Elgton Jenkins is 30 years old. So you can do one of two things here. You can restructure the contract, ask him to take a pay cut, but what's that number? Is he really going to take a huge pay cut? If we can't get Elgton Jenkins' number down to about $10 million in cap hit, I don't want him. Now, you can convert a little bit to guaranteed money. You can do that. That magic number for me is 10. Sean Ryan, he's hitting free agency. That magic number to me is about $6 million. If you could get Sean Ryan back at $6 million per, with the cap hit would be about $4 million this year, I want Sean Ryan back. If you got to go as high as $10 million to get Sean Ryan, what you're doing is you're overpaying for you're not even overpaying for good. You're overpaying for above average. Instead, we always say you're willing to overpay for great, never overpay for good. He's not even good. Neither of these guys played good this year. So that's how I see the center position. What I think you should do with Elgton Jenkins is go to him with a restructure and say, hey, here's the number we got on it. He's probably going to get extremely pissed off and go, y'all, screw you guys. I want out. Remember, he held out of camp last year because he wanted a new deal. Good thing that we didn't do that, right? Hindsight being 22. I can't even remember what my take was in training camp, whether we thought we should do it or not. I may have been on board with doing it because I didn't want, the offensive line to be shaky going into training camp. But this is another reason, in my opinion, why they couldn't build any kind of cohesiveness. I see the super chat there, Nick. Appreciate it. We'll hit it in a second, man. So all that being said, if he says no, cut him, free up the $20 million. And then if he hits free agency, I would tell him, hey, come back to us with your best offer in free agency. Okay. We may be willing to beat it. Right. So if he goes to free agency and the rest of the league sees him this way at 30 years old and they say, you know what? No, man, the best we can do is a 3-year deal for $25 million with $8 million guarantees. It's essentially a 1-year, $8 million deal is what it comes down to. And he comes back to the Packers. I would be willing to give him a 3-year deal worth $9 million per and $9 million fully guaranteed. Because again, the cap hit is going to be below $10 million the first year. Second year, you might have a little bit of a dead cap, but for the majority of the contract, the guaranteed money will be gone. That would make sense for me. And again, if you do that, that doesn't mean Elgton Jenkins is our starting center. No, that means, okay, that's kind of the floor. And I would approach both him and Sean Ryan the same way. First one to take the offer, that's who we'll keep. If we can get Sean Ryan on 3 years, $18 million, with let's say $5 million guaranteed, cool. Then essentially the first year of the cap hit's probably going to be about $4 million. You've got a solid backup center, in my opinion. And then you go on free agency, try to find your starter, because it's going to be hard to do it in the draft with no first-round pick, right? That's going to be the tough part here. Now, Jake Slaughter is one that comes to mind for me. If you guys aren't familiar, center from Florida, there's a couple other guys that you might be able to get in the second round. That makes a lot of sense. Maybe you can hit on one of those guys because, I mean, the reality is when you look at some of these top centers in the league – oh, went too far, sorry. When you look at some of these top centers in the league, who are they, right? Where were they drafted? How many snaps did they play? All these things matter. Like Eric McCoy from New Orleans, it doesn't show where he was drafted. I think I feel comfortable saying he wasn't a first-round pick. Creed Humphrey was a second-round pick, right? I don't know where Schlottman was drafted at. Zach Frazier was a little later. He definitely wasn't a first-round pick. That's a guy we had extremely high on our board 2 years ago, I believe it was. Cam Jurgens, right? He was handpicked by Philadelphia, I think, in the second or third round to replace Kelsey. And it looks like they hit in terms of a pass blocking efficiency grade there, although 66.0 isn't a great PFF grade. But you see what I'm saying? Luke Wattenberg, Jake Andrews, Aaron Brewer, Ryan Nuzell, Ryan Kelly, Ted Karras. You hear some of these names, right? And you're thinking, okay, where were they drafted? It's not impossible to go in the second round and get a solid center. We could have had Creed Humphrey in the second round. We just crapped the bed, swung and missed, right? We went with Josh Myers over here. So, again, that's the quick breakdown on Elgton Jenkins. I'm curious to know what everybody thinks in the comments. If you're watching this back later, let us know. How do you feel about Elgton Jenkins? What's the number you would put on him? Maybe it's a little higher than 10. Maybe you would go 15. Maybe you wouldn't even pay 10 average cap, right? Maybe it's something, 5 million is the most I would go per year. Let us know in the comments what you think. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future live